Well, thank you, sir. Oh, welcome to this week's TOC meeting. So we've got a few bits on the agenda. We've got a regular standing review of actions from last week, a review of outstanding PRs. Amelia and Carson have joined us this week to present their RFC on changing the approver requirements. And Amelia as well with merging the GitHub team's RFC PR. And then we've got the usual slot for any other business. So without further ado, let's have a look at the actions from last week. Eric, how's the proposal for the RFC process going for adding and removing repositories?
I didn't quite get a chance to finish that up, but let's leave it on there for next week.
Okay, cool. I'll carry that one over. And David, how did it go with Greg?
And the build packs stuff? Yeah, the build packs domain thing, Greg and Chris and I are talking about shortly. So we definitely, we made a plan to actually do this, but we haven't done anything about it yet. But we are feeling the pressure. Diego's pushing pretty hard to get an answer to what we're doing there, which I appreciate because we don't want to like let it drop and then not have any certificate options later. So nothing to report yet. But we have like 3 build pack related items, and I think we're going to schedule some separate conversation for it. Chris, is that your understanding as well?
Yep, that's exactly right.
Okay, cool. So then looking at PRs, we've got some that have come in as fresh. So I will start pasting in the chat. So the first one we've got is adding orphaned repos to the App Runtime Platform working group. Wow, that's a tongue twister.
This was me. There was a sheet of orphans and I claimed them. And I made it in multiple commits so that the first one you can see where I added them and then I alphabetized them. So that one's a mess if you look at the total changes. But if you look at the first commit, that will show you the ones that I added.
Okay. Cool. I don't think this is likely to be overly controversial, sweeping up the orphans and taking them home.
Put it that way, it sounds controversial.
Yeah, but they're orphans.
Should this also be accompanied by updates to the enormous cloudfoundry.yaml file?
So we have never updated that one for our team, and I have that in progress. That is a much bigger
fantastic
1,000 lines of YAML that is in progress, and I did not finish before this meeting today.
Is it worth actually adding that in at the same time, or do you think do that as a separate one?
That sounds complicated enough to do separately if it's not affecting anything right now. Let's just get the correct description in the charter, and then we can make sure that things are synchronized to the YAML source of truth.
Cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother at all. I would wait for like automation to be there. Like I started like there's later another pull request where we started using the working group charters to start doing some automation. So I think we should have eventually moved to a place where we generate that. But I think the other pull request around team naming, like that is blocking that effort, right? We first need to agree on naming and then we can start automating. So.
Great, so maybe I don't need to do this thousands of lines of YAML that I've been touching.
Yeah, sounds painful to do manually and painful to do and painful to review.
Yeah. Okay, so then the next one we've got is Carson, conveniently, allowing log-cache-cli to have wiki pages.
Pretty straightforward. We just want a wiki. We made we drew one up for a GitHub release process and then realized that the wiki was being deleted every 30 seconds. So it'd be nice for that not to happen.
30 seconds?
What?
It takes 2 hours to run that thing.
2 hours then. I know it runs, it's supposed to run every 30 seconds, right? Or that was the initial thing, so I assume that was what was happening.
What do you like about a wiki? I mean, do we use wikis at all in the Cloud Foundry org yet? We do? Okay. If there's a pattern of using it, I'm like, otherwise we just like commit to a docs directory, right?
There's many repos that use a wiki.
It seems a sensible place. Keep your docs alongside your code and keep it all nice and open. Okay, cool. So then add support for opt-in GitHub projects sync for working groups. Let's just grab that URL.
Wow, that looks like a smart thing to do.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is so I wrote a while back a tool to use GitHub project beta to sync the like a list of repos to a project. Unfortunately, it doesn't work cross organization yet. In the meantime, it has been used by the services management group and I think CF deployment working group as well. But yeah, I was still running it locally from my machine because I don't know, because it didn't work cross org yet, but now services management, they've set just up multiple projects in different orgs. So yeah, I think it's time to bring this in as a thing that we run from the community repo. Was a nice piece of automation to try out this pattern of like using the machine parsable working group definitions as a source of truth for this type of thing. One thing I'm not sure on yet is like, do we want to add the configuration or the opt-in configuration at the end of the machine, the YAML snippet in the working group charter, or do we want a separate place?
It kind of seems sensible to have it with the working groups, since that's where the rest of the config lives.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm just wondering, are we going to see problems? Because I'm guessing that image that you've got is on your personal Docker hub.
Sure. Yeah, I can move that.
I was thinking
the
it might,
foundation. Yeah.
either the foundation or given it's going to be running as GitHub Actions, does it make sense to use the GitHub container registry, since presumably that won't hit any rate limiting?
Yeah, but I mean, like the image is not going to be pulled much, right? So that shouldn't be the problem. It runs like once every 2 hours or something, or every hour. I don't know. So that's not going to cause any.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's the reason for moving it, I wouldn't bother, but I can see from a foundation point of view that we might want to have things we'll rely on under our control, and that it maybe makes sense. I'm fine either way.
Yeah, so I guess either foundation GitHub, Docker Hub, or the GitHub one, just so then the circus problem is mitigated. Or your in-laws never letting you out again.
Yes. There's internet here.
And Ruben, the renames to the working group areas are just to match those to the names of the projects?
Yeah, this is just to match what was already there. So there were area labels. So yeah.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah, so I reckon that small tweak and we should be ready to go then with that one. Okay. Cool. So then on the outstanding PRs of note, we've got add CF test helpers to org automation, which ties in I'm using memory here. This ties in actually. Oh no, that one we should just be good to go now, I believe.
Yep.
It has been open more than a week and we have quorum. So I will press the button. Cool.
One important thing to note is that the org automation has been not working for a while now. But I can give more context on that later, maybe.
Okay, cool. And then we've got add loggregator related repos to runtime team. So I posted this one in as we have both Amelia and the TOC here. So it made sense to flag this one up.
Yeah, let me check to see if my one where I swept up all the orphans includes these.
Okay, cool. We will leave that in your more than capable hands then in that case. And there we go for PRs of note for this week. So at this point, over to Amelia and Carson for presenting the RFC for changing the approver requirements.
You want to take it, Carson?
Sure, I can start it out. We put together an RFC along the templates provided by the TOC to change the requirements for nominating an approver to allow for a wider range of contributions to be accepted. I guess the problem we felt we were facing in ARP and other areas was that the current criteria was pretty narrow. Some working groups didn't like get a large enough number of PRs to make it easy to add new people to working groups. And like other valuable functions within the working groups, like reviewing issues, answering Slack questions, didn't fit easily within the requirements or like weren't specifically called out as ways to be considered for nomination. Amelia, do you want to take on the proposed solution?
Yeah, sure. So we wanted to throw out an idea. I'm curious to hear what you all think, but basically have to have completed 20 of the following. And then we said the following includes like submitting PRs, which wasn't included before, reviewing PRs, submitting issues, reviewing issues, and then like involved in technical discussion. So maybe you're involved on like a GitHub proposal for, you know, migrating NATS, you know, or to NATS 2 or something. Maybe you're answering interrupt questions. And then of course, that's all like topped by with no objection from the lead. So with the idea that once you have completed all those items, you would open a PR, show proof of all those items, and someone would say, yep, great, you're an approver now. And we'll have great automation that will work 2 hours later.
I think this makes sense. I think the problem is the life cycle of some working groups are a little more maintenance-y than others. And so like if we had tons and tons of people trying to contribute to many different areas and really vying for control, we would want to have more strict getting control requirements. I think that, but I think this makes sense. I think it's a very thoughtful proposal. I guess what the two things I'm just like risk mitigating for a second. The two things that I always come up to me is I'm like, well, we want to prevent somebody from becoming an approver who doesn't know what they're doing and makes a big mistake. And we want to prevent a supply chain attack from a malicious actor. Those are the sort of two things that I think about around approvers. I think like we'll probably be able to detect a malicious actor, especially if it's like, it's very unlikely there's a malicious actor from a vendor sponsored company. So like there's a bunch of, you know, mitigating controls there. And then, yeah, we might accidentally make somebody approver who makes mistakes, but like that would probably be in an area where there aren't a lot of people that know the thing anyway. And somebody new is like, I'm here to help maintain this area. And then like, how do you get that person ramped up? Like, I don't know, there's nothing, they might make a mistake at some point in learning that process. So I'm not super worried about either of those two things. I think most importantly, you're preventing the supply chain attack, I think, by having a significant number of activities and like a human who like evaluates the person and so on.
So I like this proposal as well. I'm also not worried about, let's say, new colleagues or new people who make mistakes, because we have tests, we have CI, we have a release process. So that's I think well covered. And if something goes terribly wrong, I mean, the workgroup lead can withdraw then the rights if necessary. This was the supply chain attack or some really malicious action. That's more interesting, but I have no experience with that. And if we now try to close all gaps or tighten it everything, I would say we make things worse than better. So I like it, because I think it was 60 reviews before. Well, nobody from my team has reached that. And I'm talking about an active project. So Cloud Controller Kapi is something with a lot of PR. So yeah, so +1 from my side.
I'd say I see that similarly than the two that have already spoken up. I have some worries, like what's happening with supply chain attacks and these kind of things, or if we now loosen these things a lot and get into a situation where we don't want to allow everyone in who fulfills those, but like basically, I guess getting into that situation would be a luxury that we don't have. So maybe opening up is actually the right thing to do. Like, I mean, when we defined the first version of that and like spoke, like before the TOC even existed, we all made pretty clear we want to be as open as possible and as welcoming and whatever as possible without making too much of this. And maybe this step is just in the right direction. We can revisit that if that goes wrong somehow. And I guess there's no way to have an automation, right? There's no way that you just participate in a discussion and eventually automatically, without human interaction, get approver permission. So I guess we are safe also in regards to the supply chain attacks. Like, I mean, whoever gets approver rights needs to be somehow. I mean, we will see how they act, right?
Yeah.
So it's a +1 from my side as well.
Yeah, I also think this looks pretty good. We should definitely get all the other working group leads to review this and see if they have any concerns, because it would affect how they'd be making decisions about approvers within their working groups. Amelia and Carson, did you have a guideline about like what constituted involvement in a technical discussion, like what an instance of that is? Would that be like discussion around a single proposal? Would that ongoing discussion count as one instance, or something else?
That was my idea. That's like one, like let's say you were involved in the Nets 2 upgrade, that like your entire, like, you know, it's not per comment. You can't be like, and this.
I made 5 comments. That's 5 contributions.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can add a line about that if you want. But
yeah,
yes.
that might be good to clarify, just so that that's pretty clear in the document.
I will say I struggled defining what's a substantial PR and what's a substantial issue.
Yeah.
I spent a long time on that.
I mean, that's a judgment call anyway, and so you know it's going to be up to the lead ultimately.
Exactly, I did at that.
Yeah, just
depending on the feedback of other working group leads, we might also put something in that allows working groups to be more strict on that by just saying we have more contributions, so we actually want that strictness. The most important point in that regard is that per working group, this is clear and the same for everyone, so that there is no kind of confusion about somebody like was like kind of that the rules were changed to get a particular person the approver rights and then to not give them the others, which is I think not the intention of this, but that like, just allow working groups to opt out of the relaxation if they see more contributions and want to keep the strictness in. Maybe that is. But I mean, if all working group leads right now agree to this exact proposal, then we don't need that anyway.
I think at this point we just want to get people in an approver role. I think it has never happened. So the whole process that we currently have is basically fictional. It's like this, yes, maybe. So I think like our working group, the Foundation Infrastructure, had promoted someone to contributor or something. That is the only thing we have done, I think, with regards to changing roles. So I don't know, just to give some perspective on this process.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it'll be exciting when we get our first new approver. Okay, so I'm hearing 2 action items. I'm hearing we should reach out to all the other leads and get their input, and I'm hearing add a sentence about what a technical discussion entails. Cool.
And I already
Okay.
approved it, Amelia, because I like it as is.
Me too.
But
I
ideally,
think we should go through the 2 phases of the RFC process where there's open discussion, but then we propose a final comment period, and can either have that open for a week with the vote or short circuit it with unanimous approval amongst all concerned.
you're saying I'm not allowed to approve it yet because we haven't started the approval.
I mean, you
phase.
can approve it, but
Yeah.
it may be a little premature.
Yeah, it's
You
biased.
can also revoke your approval at
Yeah.
this point.
Something you might reconsider Wednesday morning.
Yeah, I'll be like, Eric makes some
Wake up,
very
oh my
good
God,
points.
drop the coffee mug.
Yeah, about the integrity of this idea. Revoked.
Okay. Yeah, so I would probably call the open comment period when you tag in the other working group leads, because then it's all nice and clear that everyone knows where it is at that point. And then when you're happy, put it into that final comment period, and we'll go in there and tick and maybe remove David to make him retick.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So the next item we've got is Amelia again for merging the GitHub Teams RFC PR.
Very exciting. Lots of review
that
period.
one?
I swear this is final review period, right? I have to say, I do love the new GitHub feature where like Eric can just say, I think it should be this. And I can be like, commit that. That's great. So thank you, Eric, for your suggestions. Just want to poke you to, make sure it's good to go. Lee, you're not the holdout. Who's the holdout?
No, it's Jan.
Jan, you're the holdout on this. I know you're like outside, so I'm just making sure you're paying attention here. He ran off to go play with his kids outside or something.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just getting inside because my little one got inside. So
Hey, you're the holdout on this PR.
on which one? What?
The GitHub Teams one. You're the last person who hasn't approved. So approval,
Is it in
should
the-
you see fit, would be appreciated. And then I know that's blocking
GitHub
some of
Teams and
Ruben's
access?
automation work.
Should be approved now.
Yep, that's the. I will click the magic button.
Yay.
Magic button clicked. Okay, cool. So, any other?
Do you want to
bits?
run the magic numbering script on that and see if all those changes I made will explode?
Yeah, I'll give that a run a bit later on, see what happens. It should be fun.
I love the level of professionalism here.
And
Yeah.
the level of test coverage.
Yeah, testing bash scripts, it's fun. So on
manipulate files and things too.
yes, it's fine. It's fine. It's not like we're running databases here, and we've got a full history, so
You can
it's
always
okay.
revert things. It's fine.
Exactly. No, don't worry too much. On any other business, I did see that Ram had added an item to review the items from the PR document.
Yeah, predictably, there's not a lot of interest in the other kind of PR. So teams of engineers love pull requests, but obviously not press releases so much. So I just wanted to try and see if we could, as a group, answer some of the questions that are in the document. If folks still want to take that, I think I'm okay with that too. But if we could spend some time and try and answer a few things together as a group, I think it would be really appreciated.
Okay. I'm sort of wondering, do the working group need to do a bit of a first pass on this for us then to work on from there?
Right. So I have made a version of this document for that group as well, which has also, not been opened by a lot of the folks on the working group. I've sent them a reminder today. So I promise to do like a call later this week. But if you want to review answers after that, that's good too. But again, I don't know. I guess some of these can be. I'm totally in agreement in terms of a few of the items there. So we don't have a concrete date for the announcement yet. Should this come from the TOC, go to the working groups, or should this bubble up from the working groups and then sort of, get a nod from the TOC, etc.? I'm not so sure. But then I'm gravitating towards the working group coming up with like the date and stuff. And but then some of the other things, I think, we can still take a stab at. For example, what is significant about this announcement and why should anyone care? I think independent of the working group, the TOC could answer that. Some key takeaways, some business value, some comments about business value that's going to be delivered. I think some of these can happen independent of the working groups, is where my head is at.
Yeah, I think it kind of needs to be a joint thing between the working group and the TOC, is my feeling.
So maybe what I'll do is find some time on, I don't know, like a Friday or something, and post that, put that information out, so folks can join. Depending on whoever shows up, we make the best out of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I've got a quick one on any other business. I did start to have a play with GitHub projects, which I've just posted a link there. I've not put much in there yet, but it's just to start having a tinker and a think about it. Have a nosy, do some thinking on your own, and maybe at the next week's TOC, I'll prod people for ideas about what we want to do with it. So I'll capture an action for that bit. Have we got anything else for this week under any other business?
Yes. So I made a few changes to the org management. I didn't, for one, I made a PR, but for the other, I just went straight to the main because it is, we already approved the whole concept. This is more like trying to fix it so that it isn't broken all the time. So one issue that I've found is that people can like still make changes to repos, and sometimes that breaks the org automation. So the state of the world is different from the file. So what I've done is like an on failure. I've added it to do a dump. So basically generate the original file again, and then make a PR with that file so that we can like review, see a diff of like the state of the world and what we expect it to be. So then we have to like resolve the diff there. So that's one thing I did. The other thing I did is on PRs that make changes to the YAML file there, run a check. So some issues, for example, sometimes we have failures on users not being, so they are being added to, for example, the repo, but not to the org, right? Things like that. So those should make fail before merge, ideally. So yeah, those are some improvements that I did, and hopefully that will make things better. So there will hopefully, if this it's currently running, so ideally there should be a PR somewhere today created by the automation with the diff that we should review ideally quite quickly, because like the longer we wait, the more it diverges again, and yeah, we basically have to get it to work again. Otherwise, we don't, all the PRs that we have made with changes to that file won't go live until we fix this. So yeah, I don't know what the best process for that is, because it feels like the whole the waiting for the TOC like meeting is too slow to get this resolved. So yeah, I don't have ideas, but it would be nice to maybe with like say 2 approvals or something. I know that Lee is usually looking at these things as well, so maybe like Lee and I can like look at those issues together and then resolve it that way.
I think it helps that we're closely time zone aligned as well.
Yes. So if that's okay, then maybe we can try that process for a bit, see if we can get it to stabilize.
Are the rest of the TOC happy with that?
Yeah, sounds like the right thing to do. Like, I mean, we did agree to that in general, and then there's no need from my side to always wait for a meeting or for getting 3 of us to actually accept. So for me, that sounds fine.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Has anyone got anything else for this week?
We still don't have a CF deployment that fixes the like does a full release including the UAA, right? Where to fix the Spring for shell. Is that true, or do we have one out yet? Is there like maybe an ETA that we want to share on what that's going to look like?
We don't
Carson,
have
you
one, and I talked with Jochen about it, and they said they are at the moment working on this bionic thingy, and that hangs on the on some changes in some SMB drivers, and the only option to bring out a new CF deployment would be to revert everything, and so they said let's continue with the bionic stuff and simply document it, and that's it. The the next working group meeting for CF deployment would be this week, but it had to be postponed because Jochen is not available this Thursday due to these Eastern vacations. So it will be next week, and then yeah, we can talk about it and then see if it's really necessary to revert everything or because I don't like the situation where you cannot release. This needs to be solved. But at the moment, there are so many open construction sites. You know, we want to have this concourse set up, and the process has to move. And yeah.
Okay. Sounds like
it will take a little bit of time until it's
rolling.
rolling, but Yeah.
Great. All right.
The
Well,
engines are started.
I
but
agree
they are
that
very
doesn't.
weak.
It makes sense to try to keep going as long as we keep working on it, right? Then I would say it makes sense to
Yeah,
keep going.
yeah.
I think the volume service or the service management group pushed some commits that should resolve the last remaining issues an hour ago.
Cool.
They just don't appear to have run through the pipeline yet and or cut a release yet that has gone through the CFD pipeline. That's the last thing. I think they've already made SMB technically support Bionic. There's some add-on bit within it, CIFS-utils, that isn't totally compatible. And that's what the release process is waiting on, a release with that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool. And good news, Eric. The script changes work.
Sweet.
All right. So if nobody else has anything for this week, then I suggest we gain 20 minutes back.
I just wanted to announce that like we're coming up with a good response to the build packs question, not about the build packs domain, but about the cloud native build packs and why so far we don't have a plan to like get them into Cloud Foundry deployment. But it's still on the table. I think we had some reasons behind why it wasn't nearly as trivial as we were hoping it was going to be. And we'll share what we explored and kind of discovered there. And like, if anybody wants to, I know Jan, you and I have second guessed this like a million times. So if anybody wants to try to find the energy or way to make this work, I'm still down for it. We just don't have a concrete plan to do it right now.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, happy Easter, everybody. And I shall catch you next week then in that case.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks all.
See you all. Bye.